This video essay was written by the late Dr. Joel Schwartz, who was professor of history at Montclair State University. It is dedicated to his memory. What you are seeing here is Williamsburg in Brooklyn, 75 years ago, before the New York City Housing Authority, or NYCHA, tore down many of these buildings to build Williamsburg houses in 1938. This extraordinary collection of photos is from the New York City Housing Authority collection housed at the Guardia and Wagner Archives at LaGuardia Community College, CUNY. Nearly 20 years ago, Dr. Schwartz wrote a groundbreaking overview of New York City's housing policy and its implementation in the 20th century entitled The New York Approach: Robert Moses, Urban Liberals, and Redevelopment of the Inner City. The LaGuardia and Wagner Archives NYCHA photo collection originated in the Housing Authority's need during the 1930s to document the legal imperatives of slum clearance and to portray the progress of the rehousing efforts across New York. By any measure, it was a monumental task. Here is the Governor Alfred E. Smith House's site on the Lower East Side. A heroic shot of the Smith houses on the cityscape. Another panorama shot which shows the enormous job to be done around the Navy Yard in Brooklyn. And an effort of civic will that lasted a generation. The celebration of NYCHA's 50,000th apartment on August 3, 1950, or the aerial view of the Lower East Side. And the achievement at Fort Greene, the Housing Authority's single largest project until it was divided into two sections. As these photos show, public housing became a new icon of modernism. Some of the projects themselves contributed towers to the city's skyline. Rarely were the photographs taken from any self-consciously artistic motive, such as a snow-shrouded city hall or an impulse to capture an odd moment. That the photographs often rose to the artistic echo of a Bernice Abbott or the grainy realism of the New York Photo League is testimony to the professionalism of the NYCHA photographers and to their instincts as New Yorkers. The NYCHA collection contains a wealth of New York scenes, the tableau in Brooklyn and the Lower East Side. Note the Bernice Abbott type shots of long gone Oak and other streets, or Roosevelt and New Chambers streets, also obliterated for the 22 acres of the Governor Alfred E. Smith houses. The collection provides innumerable glimpses of how the city streets were used when most of Manhattan and Brooklyn still had a dense streetscape and people used public space for all kinds of activities. For instance, This remarkable series of sidewalk views along East 113th and East 103rd Streets, the Jefferson and Carver sites in East Harlem. The collection includes earlier versions of familiar spots. An urban existence of horse-drawn vehicles and trolleys, of Harlem produce men in handcarts, of pushcart markets on the Baruch Houses site in 1950. Another street scene of the Jewish Lower East Side, of elevated trains and tenements and gas houses, of cobblestones and filigreed light stanchions, and of odd spots swept away by the era of LaGuardia and Robert Moses, by the modern superblocks of public housing. Several pictures show the business corner of West 104th Street and Columbus Avenue, with a placard, "Vote ALP for Peace," in the top story, which was demolished for the Frederick Douglass houses. The American Labor Party, along with the small businesses in the neighborhood, like this Spanish-language movie theater, was victim of the giantism employed by democratic liberals to fight poverty and political radicalism after World War II. The photographs are a reminder of how bleak, how empty, and underutilized were large swaths of Brooklyn, the Gas House district on the Lower East Side, or stretches of the West Side near San Juan Hill. As such, they constituted potent evidence for those leaders, whether LaGuardia or Simkovich or Moses, who demanded slum clearance and urban redevelopment. Most of the streets are forlorn, empty of people, although we wonder if from the Depression, or from the simple fact that pictures were taken during off hours, perhaps in the early morning.